This is James, an introvert. He's always been quiet and reserved with no special talent to make him stand out amongst his peers. He finds solace in solitude and enjoys deep thinking, but when it comes to putting himself out there, especially with the girl he likes, he's paralyzed by fear. When the girls he likes approach him, he looks at his feet and fumbles over his words. James always wanted to experience the love and championship he sees the couples around him have. But no matter how smart he dresses or how well he combed his hair, he realizes that the girls never seem to notice him in the way he hoped. The girls he admired always gravitated toward other, more confident guys who didn't second-guess themselves every time they spoke. He stayed on the sidelines, convincing himself that it wasn't worth trying. If he did, what if he embarrassed himself? What if she rejected him? So he thought it was easier to avoid disappointment by never trying at all. This pattern wasn't new. Over the years, James's fears of rejection and inadequacy became his routine. Every time he liked someone, he found himself stuck in a cycle of overthinking, convinced that he wasn't good enough. It was easier to stay silent, to stay invisible, than to risk the pain of rejection. Like all introverts, his fear of being judged, of not measuring up, became a self-fulfilling prophecy. He had been here before, sitting on the edge, wishing for the courage to approach her, but always letting the moment slip away. Watches as his prize gets swept away by another confident guy. James's fears had a firm grip on him. It wasn't just the fear of rejection. It was the fear that he was fundamentally flawed, that he'd never be enough for someone like her. But deep down, James wanted things to be different. He wanted to step out of his shell, to try, to act, to take that leap of faith. And that's when he discovered Stoicism. Seneca put it, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." James realized that much of his suffering wasn't caused by real experiences, but by his imagination running wild with negative outcomes. What if he was rejected? What if she thought he was too shy or too awkward? But as he learned from Stoicism, these fears were based on his assumptions, not on the reality of the situation. His imagination had created a story of failure that hadn't even happened. Stoicism is a philosophy that teaches us to focus on what we can control and to accept what we cannot. For James, it was a chance to reshape his thinking, to confront his fears head-on, and stop letting them control his actions. Epictetus said, "Happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control, and some things are not." James began to understand that he couldn't control how the girl he liked felt about him, which he tried, but he could control how he acted. He could choose to move past the fear and take action, even if the outcome was uncertain. The most important thing was to act, not to stay stuck in inaction due to fear. James had spent years agonizing over things beyond his control: the girl's feelings, her possible rejection, her reaction. But what he realized was that his power didn't lie in controlling her responses. It lay in how he chose to respond to the fear itself. Stoicism taught James to understand the dichotomy of control. It's about separating the things you can control from the things you can't. Epictetus reminds James, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." James had been reacting to fear with avoidance, but now with Stoicism, he learned that courage didn't mean eliminating fear. It meant acting despite it. It meant moving forward even if the outcome wasn't guaranteed. For years, self-doubt had ruled James's thoughts, but now he started writing down his fears. He reframed his thinking, reminding himself that rejection wasn't a reflection of his worth. It was simply an outcome. What truly mattered was his willingness to try, to take action in the face of fear. James wrote, "What's the worst that can happen? If she doesn't feel the same way, that's okay. It doesn't define me. What matters is that I've acted with courage." Epictetus once said, "The greater the difficulty, the more glory in surmounting it." For James, the difficulty wasn't just in approaching the girl, it was in overcoming years of fear and self-doubt. But he knew that confronting this fear head-on would bring him the strength he'd been missing all along. Stoicism also teaches us that true strength comes from embracing who we are, not pretending to be someone we're not. James had spent years trying to be someone else, thinking he had to be more extroverted, more outgoing, more something else to get the girl. But Stoicism showed him that the most powerful thing he could be was himself. And the irony is, the girl that would offer the love and championship James seeks won't want him to be someone he's not. Marcus Aurelius said, "Be yourself. Everyone else is already taken." James realized that he didn't need to be anything other than his introverted, thoughtful self. The courage to act came not from pretending to be more extroverted, but from accepting who he truly was. Before he approaches her, James practices mindfulness. Stoicism teaches us to stay present, to quiet the noise in our minds, and to focus on what's in front of us. James closes his eyes for a moment, reminding himself that he is not defined by the past or the future. He is here, right now, and that's enough. Epictetus teaches us, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. James takes a moment to affirm, I am brave, I am worthy of connection, and I will act. With that thought, he walks over to the girl. With his new Stoic mindset, James approaches the girl. He no longer worries about rejection or overanalyzes the situation. Although he still gets the butterfly, he isn't sick from despair. Instead, he's focused on the present moment, enjoying the interaction for what it is, a chance to connect. Whatever happens next, he's at peace, knowing he took the step that fear had once prevented him from taking. Marcus Aurelius teaches us to love only what happens, what was destined. No greater harmony. James knows that whatever happens now is part of his journey. If she doesn't feel the same way, that's okay. He's already won by acting with courage and authenticity. The conversation flows naturally. Yes, there's some awkwardness at first, but there's no pressure, no pretending. James wasn't trying to live up to someone else's expectations, rather. He was just being himself. Just two people enjoying each other's company. James knows that he is not defined by any one outcome. The connection they share, the courage he's shown, that's what matters. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. James has found that strength, not in the girl's response, but in his own ability to face fear and embrace the present moment. As James walks away, he realizes that the real victory wasn't in getting the girl's attention. It was in conquering the self-doubt that had held him back for so long. By applying Stoicism, he was able to transform his fears into action and embrace the courage that was always inside him. Marcus Aurelius teaches us, the obstacle on the path becomes the way. For James, the obstacle was his self-doubt, but through Stoicism, he turned it into the path to confidence, connection, and self-empowerment. With the discovery of Stoicism, James broke free from a lifetime of self-doubt, fear, and worry, but what mattered most is he learned to be and live as himself.